Hello, this is Deadite, and let's break down some recent titles that you might have missed from March and April 2019, in the latest entry of Games Under the Radar. The following titles are not just randomly picked, but are actually games that I sought out to play for myself, and not everything I play on the side quite makes this list. This series is great for me because it allows me to cover a more diverse range of titles to not only help some non-AAA games get more coverage, but also to assist everyone watching to hopefully expand their gaming horizons a little bit with titles that they may not have tried otherwise. This also might give you some insight into what style of games I like to try, because honestly I'm not too picky on genres, I just like good video games. The following will be more of my general impressions and by no means full reviews, so I encourage you to seek out further information on any of these titles if they catch your eye or look like the type of thing you might enjoy. Now let's get to the games. Luna Nights is a fast-paced Metroidvania that highlights your special ability to manipulate time with the power to not only slow down time, but also to completely halt it. The game does a good job of mixing up which time mechanic you should use for varying puzzles and during combat, especially during the brutal boss fights. Initially I was thinking, why would I ever need to slow down time when I can stop it entirely, and then quickly discovered how ingenious the system really is at its core and found unique uses for both quite regularly. My only slight annoyance with Luna Nights is the fact that your standard attacks consume your MP gauge, which is somewhat frustrating when you flat out can't do basic attacks sometimes, but you can build this back up with some items and by grazing close to enemies when you're manipulating time. Definitely a cool little Metroidvania that makes good use of its time mechanics and is also surprisingly challenging. Outward is an action RPG meets survival game that is a healthy melding of both instead of pushing too far into survival game territory. This can be played entirely solo, but it encourages you to play with a partner in either online co-op or with local split screen. It can be quite rough around the edges at times, but is definitely a slow burn style of RPG where you might start to find yourself to be more invested in your adventure than you would initially anticipate. There's honestly tons of inventory and weight management in this game, so if that's not your thing, you might be somewhat turned off by this, but once you get a backpack upgrade or two, it becomes far less of an issue. Strangely enough, you never really die here in Outward, instead you just wake up at a different location and continue your journey from a different section of the map. Although I'm playing on PC here, just know that the console versions have some pretty severe load times and downgraded visuals compared to the PC version, but it's still perfectly playable, but definitely worth a mention. Overall, if you happen to find the concept of survival games to be interesting but always wish they had more classic RPG elements and exploration, Outward might be just the closest thing you can get right now, and try to bring along a friend with you. For this next one, I'm actually going to hand it off to a friend of the channel who has played a little more Forager than I've gotten time to, so I'm going to throw this one over to Danger to quickly summarize this one.
Forager is a 2D crafting, exploration, and base building game that I hate to love because of how addicting it is to just build and expand your island. It starts kinda slow, but with seemingly endless amounts of things to do or work towards, you are never really just waiting around for the game to catch up to you. It also features a pretty extensive skill tree that allows you to customize how you go about reaching your next goal, or what buildings you have access to next. Earlier in the game, I did have a moment of frustration when I had to clear out a large area of trees for building, and then I decided to use a scroll that I didn't know what it did yet, and it did this. Overall though, I kept finding myself wanting to do just one more thing. Build that next building, or expand a little more to get that next piece of equipment, or just clear off a piece of land. Again.
Alright, thanks for that, Danger. I have to agree with you, it starts out pretty slow, but once you get in the rhythm of everything, it's pretty hard to put down. Danger helps out with the channel from time to time and mostly does live streams on his channel, but I'm trying to help him get going on making some more traditional edited videos, so head over there after this and help me kick his butt into gear with some good old-fashioned motivation from you guys. Appreciate that.
I don't know what this place is about, but I get this weird feeling. Something about these walls, these gears, and even these bolts. I'm not alone in this prison.
Vaporum is a first-person classic dungeon crawler with some unique time manipulation mechanics that's been out for a while on PC, but got a release on consoles quite recently. While attempting to solve these dangerous dungeons, you can actually fully freeze time at will, making the game only advance one move at a time to help you with micromanaging multiple enemies, but is also essential for solving many of the puzzles scattered about that require very precise timing. The combat system here is quite standard for the genre, with pretty much bashing your numbers against the enemy's numbers, but you do have access to some spells and alternate weapon sets, which does give you a little more flexibility in how you tackle these. The game is definitely not for the faint of heart and is brutally punishing at times and has many puzzles that might stump you for a while, but Vaporum is all the more rewarding because of that. Pathway is a roguelite tactics strategy game that can be best summarized as XCOM meets FTL with a little dash of Indiana Jones. The goal is to survive your way through a branching map trying to reach your mission objective, all while managing fuel, ammo, health, and doing all you can to make the best out of some tricky situations along the way. The combat system is fairly straightforward, with varying degrees of cover spread all over the maps, giving you better odds at avoiding oncoming gunfire, all while placing shots of your own as you cross your fingers and pray for luck to be in your favor. It may not revolutionize the XCOM style of combat here, but just like FTL, the magic element of the game is not necessarily its individual parts taken on their own, but the satisfaction of all the systems working together to make something that's rewardingly challenging. The game is honestly quite hard and feels like it's meant to be chipped away at over time because your units do permanently level up in between these runs. I'm always somewhat conflicted with this style of progression in roguelites where it's half about you as a player getting better and half about your numbers just getting flat out better over time, but it works well enough here in Pathway because the odds are so stacked against you that you need all the advantages you can get. Kicking off yet another one with a direct game-to-game comparison, Katana ZERO is like brutally smashing together Hotline Miami and Mark of the Ninja to make a frantic but somehow also methodical, trial-and-error time-bending murder game. This goes one step beyond just satisfying core gameplay though, and also provides a pretty captivating narrative about the inner demons and mental anguish the main protagonist struggles to control. Very enjoyable to play at nearly every microsecond with some great overall level design that has good use of verticality, background layers, and some interesting environmental traps spread all throughout. Awesome pulsating music, buckets of gore, and tight gameplay makes Katana ZERO a pretty easy one to recommend here. Grimshade is a classic style RPG with a turn-based tactical battle system that somewhat reminds me of the combat from Heroes of Might and Magic, with a few interesting tweaks to that formula. The overall adventure is very heavy on dialogue, which is standard for the subgenre of course, but smartly introduces some pretty eccentric characters right out of the gate, which helps to make things interesting. What initially caught my eye to try out Grimshade was its combat, because I happen to love turn-based tactics battle systems, and it works well enough here, but is a little slower than I was anticipating. Of course it's turn-based, but yeah. It still has tons of underlying systems and advanced mechanics to learn that require more planning and strategy than you might initially assume. If you're looking for a story-heavy classic RPG adventure to go lose yourself in like the older days of PC gaming, Grimshade might be just the nostalgic romp you're seeking. And those are just some of the recent titles that I've been playing that I thought might look interesting to some of you guys out there, and more information on each of these can be found in the video description. There are usually many games I try out each month that don't quite make this list, but all of these had some kind of interesting detail, gameplay mechanic, art style, or something else that really stood out to me where I wanted to cover it here. We had many games this month with time manipulation stuff and tons of RPGs here, but honestly RPGs are some of my favorites, so no issue for me. If you happen to enjoy listening to someone who loves gaming to an almost unhealthy degree, consider subscribing and also checking out the perks I provide through Patreon and through the YouTube Join feature, which for as low as $1 make you permanently eligible for the gaming trivia challenges I do every month on the Boomstick Gaming Discord channel for the chance to win some free games. These are all skill-based trivia challenges, so you can't just rely on chance for these, so whoever has the most gaming knowledge or can sleuth the fastest on Google will win the most games usually. And one more thing before I go, special thanks to Danger for helping out with this one, and as always, this has been Deadite, and thanks for watching Boomstick Gaming.